Have you ever stopped to think about what really happens after death? I'm not talking about theories or stories you've heard, but something much deeper, the revelation of a secret that can completely change the course of your life here and now. Imagine for a moment if Jesus, standing before you, opened the eyes of your soul and showed you why so many live in scarcity, anxiety, and fear, while so few experience peace, abundance, and a transformed destiny. This isn't a common religious topic. It's a spiritual key that breaks invisible chains and opens doors you've believed were closed until now. What I'm about to share in this video is powerful. The experience of someone who understood that prosperity isn't easy money, but a spiritual power that changes destinies. The revealed secret isn't theory, it's practice. It's precisely what separates those who live in silence, surviving, from those who live in fullness, with purpose, and aligned with what God has already planned for them. Get ready, because you'll discover principles that men of faith applied to overcome defeat and walk in victory, teachings that seem simple, but which hide the key to breaking down barriers and achieving true prosperity that isn't lost to crises or circumstances. If you're tired of living in reaction, this video is just what you need to change your story. What's revealed here will confront you, but it will also set you free. And I can tell you right now, after listening, you'll never look at your life the same way again. What you've just received here is a key capable of completely changing the course of your life. When you apply this teaching, spiritual prosperity begins to open up in all areas. You gain clarity, strength, and direction to live differently than you've always lived. This knowledge is already transforming your mind and heart, and now is the time to give back. Show that you value what you've learned. Like this video and subscribe to the channel to continue receiving truths that strengthen your journey. This is the attitude of someone who not only listens, but decides to walk to a higher level. Have you ever stopped to think about what really happens when life ends? This question bothers us, stirs us inside, and at the same time, awakens a curiosity we try to avoid in our daily lives. Human beings have a strong tendency to live as if they'll never die, accumulating worries, goals, demands, and even resentments, but it only takes a moment for everything to change. Death, as frightening as it may seem, is also one of life's greatest teachers, forcing us to look at what truly matters. When someone faces eternity, there's no longer room for masks, excuses, or disguises. Only the truth remains. And it's precisely in this clash between the end of the body and the awakening of the soul that many discover something they never realized in life. True prosperity lies not in what's stored in our pockets, but in what's built in our hearts. It's as if, in that moment, the curtain falls and you see everything clearly. What once seemed grand reveals itself to be small, and what you ignored takes on enormous importance. The feeling is that every choice, every word, and every action carried far more weight than you imagined. And this makes sense because no one can take money, status, or earthly achievements with them. What crosses the threshold of death are the seeds you planted within yourself and in the people who crossed your path. This is the first shocking revelation Jesus brings when someone has the opportunity to encounter eternity. Prosperity is about a spiritual legacy, about what endures when everything else disappears. It's about having built a life that never ends but continues to bear fruit, even after your last breath. This experience, however difficult, brings a transformative clarity. We often chase a comfortable life, but we don't realize that comfort can also be an invisible prison. People who have been on the brink of death report that at that moment, all that matters most is the peace of having lived with purpose. It's the feeling that life wasn't wasted on trivial concerns, but invested in something that carries eternal weight. And herein lies the secret of true spiritual prosperity. It's not something to be sought only at the end when there's no more time, but a lifestyle that needs to be built now, while you still breathe, while you can decide, act, and change your story. It's an urgent call to stop living on autopilot and begin walking consciously toward the destiny that is being built. When you understand this, it becomes impossible to look at life the same way. It's as if a new lens is placed on your eyes, and you begin to realize that time is your most valuable resource. Think about it. How many times have you wasted energy on pointless arguments? How many times have you held on to hurt feelings that only robbed you of peace? How many dreams have you put off believing you had all the time in the world. Encountering eternity shows that there may not be a future, and that's why every moment must be seized as a chance to write a story that goes beyond yourself. This is the true impact of facing death. It doesn't steal, it reveals. It shows where you are and where you're truly going. And it is precisely here that the teachings of great men of faith come in like a compass. Many have taught that life only finds its true meaning when lived with our eyes fixed on something greater than ourselves. Spiritual prosperity is born from this understanding. It's not just about conquering, but about being transformed. It's understanding that you don't need to die physically to experience this revelation, because it's already available now, the moment you choose to open your mind and heart to this truth. And that's what makes this message so urgent. There's no time to postpone it. Eternity doesn't wait, and life here on the outside passes too quickly to be wasted on anything that has no lasting value. That's why I want to provoke you to reflect. Have you been living like someone who understands that life is not infinite? Or have you fallen into the trap of believing that there will always be time? Let me ask you something that will help you grasp this truth. Write the word in the comments eternity. This simple gesture will be like a public commitment, a way of declaring that you will no longer ignore this calling, that you have decided to look at life with different eyes. When you comment, you not only reinforce this message within yourself, but also inspire others to reflect on it. Those who read it realize they are not alone on this journey, and this exchange strengthens everyone's journey. This is a concrete step towards starting to live differently, not just by listening, but by taking action. The most interesting thing is that when you face death this way, it stops being a frightening end and becomes a key that unlocks a completely new understanding of life. You realize that spiritual prosperity is not a distant promise or a prize for the few, but an accessible reality that depends on daily choices. And this changes everything. It changes how you view your family, your relationships, your work, and even your challenges. Everything begins to be filtered by the question, what of this will last forever? This awareness generates strength, courage, and moves you forward. It's as if Jesus were telling you right now, seize the opportunity, because you are still alive and have the chance to change your destiny. And here's the most powerful point. When someone discovers this truth, they can no longer stand still. Life gains urgency, and every moment becomes an opportunity to align with God's purpose. This is the revelation that transforms destinies. And as you digest all this, the question remains that paves the way for the next point. If spiritual prosperity isn't found in money and isn't found in what one accumulates, then where exactly is it found, and how can you begin to experience it practically today? When we talk about prosperity, the first image that almost always comes to mind is money. People associate prosperity with bulging bank accounts, new cars, huge houses, and that sense of security the world insists on associating with purchasing power. But let's be honest, how many stories have we heard of people who have all this and yet live empty, depressed, and without peace? How many examples of famous people who achieved material success but couldn't secure their own lives, precisely because they lacked something money could never buy? True prosperity is much more than numbers. It's a state of mind. It's inner peace, clarity of purpose, healthy relationships, and the certainty that your life has meaning even when circumstances aren't perfect. Money can buy comfort, but it can't buy rest for the soul. It can buy medicine, but it can't guarantee emotional health. It can give you access to crowded parties, but it can't guarantee loyal friendships. This is the difference between living only according to the world's standards or understanding that there is a much deeper spiritual prosperity. Those who experience spiritual prosperity can be in a simple room and still sleep soundly, knowing they're on the right path. They can face a financial problem and stay grounded because their confidence isn't tied to numbers, but to something greater. This doesn't mean disdaining money. After all, it's an important tool. But it does mean understanding that it can't be the foundation of your life. When the foundation is fragile, everything crumbles. But when the foundation is built on spiritual principles, nothing can tear it down. This is where many go wrong. They believe that prosperity is about having, when in fact prosperity is about being. It's about being whole, being free, being guided by values that stand the test of time. Have you ever noticed how simple people who often have almost nothing materially, manage to convey joy and peace in a way that's almost embarrassing. This happens because they've discovered that true treasure isn't in their pockets, but in their hearts. It's the ability to live lightly, without being held hostage by constant worries about what's missing, because the soul is already supplied with something that never runs out. This is the secret that so often goes unnoticed. Prosperity is the fruit of a life aligned with what truly matters, not just the sum of accumulated possessions. And this is where I want to make you reflect. Have you placed your sense of value in things that can disappear from one day to the next? Or have you sought a kind of wealth that no one can steal? The truth is that money can be lost, possessions can be taken, but spiritual prosperity remains steadfast. It doesn't depend on the market, politics, or the economy, because it comes from a source that never runs dry. This is the prosperity that changes destinies, because it transforms the way you see and live life. It's not a pretty concept, it's something practical. It's the difference between waking up every day afraid of loss and waking up confident that everything is under control, because you're grounded in something greater than yourself. Now let me make an important point. Talking about spiritual prosperity doesn't mean denying difficulties. On the contrary, it means facing them with a different attitude. Those who understand this truth don't despair when faced with a problem, because they know that each challenge can also be a door to growth. Prosperity is when you don't define yourself by crises, but use them as fuel to move forward. It's when you understand that losing money can hurt, but it can't steal your identity. It's when you realize that being in a valley doesn't mean defeat, but simply a learning process. This is liberating because it lifts the burden of trying to control everything and puts you in a place of confidence. I want you to do a simple exercise. Think about your life today and ask yourself honestly where your security lies. Is it in what you have or in who you are? Is it in your bank balance or in the strength of your faith? Write the word in the comments. Purpose. Because that's exactly what defines true prosperity. Living with purpose, not just accumulating possessions. When you comment, you make this commitment to yourself, as well as helping others who will read and reflect on the same point. This exchange creates a chain of transformation that begins here but goes much further, because each person who understands this begins to influence others with their own life. And it's precisely in this understanding that everything begins to change. Spiritual prosperity isn't a distant theory. It's a lifestyle you can start practicing now, changing your mindset, your choices, and your priorities. When this realization sinks in, anxiety subsides, your heart finds rest, and you finally understand that you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Just live in alignment with what truly matters. This is the wealth that never ends, the wealth that endures, the wealth that carries you into eternity. And as you absorb this, a question arises that unlocks the next key. If prosperity goes beyond money, what exactly opens this path within you? The answer lies in something that seems simple, but can completely transform how you see the future. The vision and dream you cultivate in your heart. One of the biggest differences between those who merely survive and those who truly thrive spiritually lies in what they carry within their hearts. People who have learned to live with purpose have discovered the power of vision and dreams. I'm not talking about random dreams, the kind that come and go without the power to change anything, but the ability to see beyond what meets the eye, to visualize what God has already promised for your future. This is the essence of true prosperity. It arises first in the invisible, in what you project within your mind and heart, before manifesting in the world around you. Those who lack vision live merely reacting, constantly putting out fires and letting themselves be carried away by circumstances. Those who have vision, on the other hand, move forward even when they don't yet see anything, because they already see within themselves what is to come. Have you ever noticed that the most inspiring people in the world, whether spiritual leaders, men and women, of faith, or even simple yet purposeful individuals, always carry a very clear vision of their life? They don't allow themselves to be limited by what's happening now, because they've learned to dream big, to think beyond the obvious. It's as if the vision is a map, and the dream, the fuel that drives each step. Without this, life becomes merely routine. With this, life gains direction. And the most interesting thing is that when this vision is aligned with God, it not only gives you the courage, to move forward, but also attracts opportunities that seem unlikely. It's as if the heavens move in favor of those who dare to dream beyond logic. But having a dream isn't enough. It needs to be nurtured. And that's where prayer comes in as one of the most important pillars of spiritual prosperity. Praying isn't just asking God for things as many think. True prayer is an alignment of vision. It's when you take that dream that burns in your heart and present it before God, asking for direction, strength and wisdom to take the next steps. Prayer is like water that waters the seed of vision. Without it, the dream dries up, loses strength, and disappears amidst difficulties. With it, even if the ground seems hard and arid, the vision finds form, grows, and becomes reality. And here's something very practical. Every time you pray, you're shaping your mindset. You're strengthening your faith and preparing your heart to see opportunities that would otherwise go unnoticed. How many times have you missed an incredible opportunity because you were distracted or discouraged? Prayer opens your spiritual eyes, gives you discernment, and heightens your sensitivity to realize that what you dream is not a daydream, but part of God's plan for your life. When you pray, your vision aligns with divine purpose, and the dream ceases to be yours alone and becomes a mission. That's why many people who have transformed their lives tell very similar stories. First, they had a clear vision of what they wanted to experience. Then they sustained that vision in prayer until little by little it became reality. It's a process that requires constancy because it doesn't happen overnight. A dream is like a plant. It needs to be planted, cared for, protected, and watered every day. Prayer is exactly that. It's the daily care that ensures the dream isn't suffocated by life's difficulties. And the more you pray, the stronger your vision becomes, the more real it becomes within you, to the point where it becomes impossible to give up. Now let me ask you something very direct. What dream have you been putting aside because you think it's too big or impossible? Maybe you've even stopped believing in it because circumstances don't help. But what if this dream is precisely God's way of prospering your life on a level you never imagined? That's why I want to challenge you to write the word in the comments. Vision. When you write, it's not just to generate engagement here in the video. It's a symbolic act of saying, I decide to regain my vision and sustain my dreams in prayer. This step, as simple as it may seem, will reinforce within you the commitment to not give up on what has been placed in your heart. And you know what's even more incredible? When you combine vision and prayer, something supernatural begins to happen. It's as if heaven and earth connect, creating an environment where things flow in ways you never imagined. The right doors open, specific people cross your path, opportunities appear at the right time, and even obstacles that seemed enormous become stepping stones that propel you upward. Spiritual prosperity is exactly this, living in a flow where you don't depend solely on human effort, but rely on divine intervention. It's not magic, it's a principle, and those who apply these principles sooner or later see results. Many people don't understand why some people seem to walk more lightly, achieving things that others spend their lives trying and failing to achieve. The secret lies precisely in this combination, clear vision and constant prayer. While some only dream without action, others pray without clarity. But when the two come together, transformation is inevitable. The heart finds strength, the mind finds direction, and life begins to move. It's at this point that you discover that prosperity isn't a coincidence. It's a consequence of living aligned with spiritual principles that never fail. And as you let this truth sink in, an inevitable question arises. If vision and prayer have such power to change destinies, what is the fuel that keeps these gears turning even when everything seems contrary? The answer lies in something that goes far beyond logic and can be the bridge between the impossible and the possible, the faith that creates paths where there are no roads. Have you ever noticed that faith is one of the most talked about things anywhere, yet at the same time one of the most misunderstood? Many people talk about faith as if it was simply believing that everything will work out or repeating positive phrases in the hope that something will change. But true faith is much deeper than that, because it's not limited to nice thoughts. It generates movement, creates paths where there seems to be no exit, and transforms destinies. It's like a key that opens invisible doors, doors that human effort alone cannot open. When you live by faith, you begin to see possibilities amidst chaos. You begin to believe that there is a way out even when everyone has already declared it over. It's curious how faith has the power to turn logic upside down. How many times have you heard stories of people who were in impossible situations and against all odds managed to overcome? It wasn't luck, it was faith. It was the decision not to accept "there's no way" as a final answer. It's this kind of faith that prospers spiritually, because it keeps you moving even when the road seems blocked. Think of someone walking in the middle of a dense forest with no path. Faith is the machete that clears the way, even if it's difficult, even if it takes time. Those who have faith know that each step opens a new path, and that stopping is not an option. But let me tell you something important. Faith isn't just waiting, faith is taking action. Many people say they believe, but they remain still, waiting for something to fall from the sky without doing their part. That's not faith, that's passivity. True faith makes you get up and take the first step, even without seeing the next one. It's like walking down a dark corridor where the light only comes on as you move. This is the power of faith. It doesn't show you everything at once, but it ensures that each step is sustained, and it is precisely in this movement that paths are created. It's not about having everything under control, it's about trusting in God's control and taking action. You might be thinking right now about areas of your life that seem stuck. It could be finances, family, health, or even dreams you've almost given up on. Faith is precisely what gives you the strength to not give up. When everyone else sees only impossibility, faith allows you to see a new beginning. And the most incredible thing is that this attitude ends up influencing even those around you. Those who live by faith inspire others, because it conveys courage amidst fear and hope amidst despair. Faith is contagious. It awakens life where there was only conformity. Now let me open a parenthesis here to generate a practical reflection. How is your faith today? Have you been using your faith only to believe in small things, or have you dared to put it into areas that seem impossible? Write your word in the comments path, because this will be a milestone in your spiritual life. By commenting, you're not just participating in the video, you're publicly declaring that you choose to live by faith, that you believe there are paths opening for you even now, even if you can't see them. This simple gesture is already a step of faith, because it shows that you're willing to believe in what you don't yet see. Another essential point is to understand that faith doesn't eliminate difficulties, but it changes your attitude toward them. A person without faith sees an obstacle and gives up. A person with faith sees the same obstacle and sees it as an opportunity to move forward. And this isn't empty motivational talk, it's reality. The world is full of people who achieve the impossible simply because they refuse to doubt. Faith doesn't deny reality, but it refuses to be a prisoner of it. Faith looks at the facts, but chooses to believe that there is a greater reality, that there is a power capable of changing any scenario. This is why you'll often see the greatest life changes happen when someone decides to take a step of faith precisely when all seemed lost. And here's another secret. Faith is also strengthened by practice. The more you exercise it, the more it grows. Each small victory achieved through faith becomes fuel to believe in even greater things. It's like training a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. And this strength will take you to places you never imagined you could reach. Spiritual prosperity isn't born of complacency, but of the courage to live by faith in all areas, to take risks, to trust, to move forward, even when others don't understand. This is the difference between someone who sits still and laments and someone who writes an inspiring story. Deep down, everyone wants to live a meaningful life, but few have the courage to pay the price of faith, because living by faith requires stepping out of your comfort zone, facing fear, and defying logic. But that's precisely where miracles happen, where impossible paths open up. Faith isn't just believing that God can, but living as if He's already acting. And when you do, your life begins to change from the inside out. And as you let this message resonate within you, an inevitable question arises. If faith can create paths where there are no roads, what happens when we begin to use our own words as tools of creation? This is precisely where the next step of this journey comes in. The power of positive confession, capable of shaping the reality around you. Have you ever noticed how words carry enormous weight in your life? Often you don't even notice, but what you say daily shapes the way you think, feel, and even how you act. And it's no exaggeration, positive confession that is, the habit of speaking life, hope, and victory, has the power to completely change the atmosphere of your life. The opposite is also true. Negative words can turn the mind into a prison. How many times have you said things like, "I can't do it. This isn't for me. My life will never change." Without realizing it, you're signing sentences against yourself, cementing defeat before you even begin to fight. It's as if each word you speak were a seed and the harvest would inevitably come later. This is a point many overlook. The mouth is not just an instrument of communication, it is a tool of creation. What you repeat frequently becomes a truth in your heart, and the heart in turn directs your actions. When you constantly complain, your mind only sees problems. When you speak negatively, you train your vision to believe there is no way out. But when you begin to confess good things, even in the midst of difficulties, it's as if you're reprogramming your mind to see new opportunities. It's not magic, it's a principle. Words nourish faith and strengthen dreams, or they suffocate all of this and transform it into fear and stagnation. Perhaps you've noticed how some people seem to possess incredible strength, even in times of crisis. They don't deny the difficulties, but they have a habit of speaking differently. While everyone else says, "There's no solution," they say, "There's still a way out." While others say, "It's over," they say, "It's just a phase." This way of speaking isn't just empty optimism, it's a spiritual stance. They understand that their words are like prophecies cast upon their own lives, and this is the essence of positive confession. You begin to speak according to the reality you want to live, not according to the circumstances you're currently facing. Now, I want you to reflect. What have you been saying about yourself and your life? Are your words bringing you closer to the future you desire or pushing you further away from it? Your mouth may be pushing you toward victory or holding you back from failure. Therefore, change needs to start there. Every time you're tempted to speak negatively, stop and replace it with a word of faith. It seems simple, but this exercise has a profound impact. Each time you choose to confess hope instead of defeat, you are changing your mindset and consequently changing your destiny. Write your word in the comments. Life, because that's what you need to start releasing more often about yourself. Words of life. This comment will be an act of decision, showing that you've chosen to speak what builds, not what destroys. And there's more. Positive confession also transforms relationships. Have you ever noticed how exhausting it is to live with someone who constantly complains, criticizes, and says harsh things? This energy ends up contaminating the environment. On the other hand, being around someone who speaks with hope and faith brings encouragement and renews strength. Your words have this power, both to lift and to tear down. That's why it's so important to watch what comes out of your mouth. You can become a source of encouragement to those around you, or you can be another burden that adds to the burdens of others. This choice is yours, and it's made daily, in every conversation, in every comment, every moment you open your mouth. Another important detail is that positive confession isn't just about speaking, but about speaking consistently. There's no point in declaring something good today and complaining again tomorrow. It takes discipline to change your speech pattern. And here's the secret. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Over time, you won't even need to try so hard, because your mind has already been trained to see possibilities instead of limitations. This is the power of repetition. It's the force of habit being used to your advantage. What once seemed impossible begins to become reality, because you're no longer harboring doubts. You're strengthening your faith with your own words. And of course, this doesn't mean denying reality. Problems exist, and always will. The difference lies in how you choose to react to them. Positive confession doesn't ignore the problem, but declares that the problem is no greater than the promise. It doesn't pretend there isn't difficulty, but affirms that the difficulty won't be eternal. This is how you begin to experience a prosperity that doesn't depend on external circumstances, but rather arises from what you decide to plant within yourself every day. This approach strengthens you and moves you forward, even when things haven't completely changed yet. And as you learn to use your words as tools of construction, a new horizon opens before you. Because if the mouth can create realities, what happens when you decide to align this confession with the obedience and sacrifice that practically demonstrate your fidelity? This is precisely the next step we need to discuss: the keys of surrender and obedience. which unlock even deeper levels of spiritual prosperity. There's one thing many people try to avoid when it comes to spiritual prosperity: the word sacrifice. We live in a time where everything revolves around how to get it faster, how to achieve it effortlessly, how to conquer without giving up anything. But the truth is that spiritual prosperity, the kind that transforms destinies, always demands a price. It's not a price in the sense of bargaining with God, but in the sense of surrender. Sacrifice is letting go of what holds you back to embrace what drives you forward. It's saying no to what only feeds your ego and saying yes to what strengthens your mission. And this is a crucial point because anyone who truly wants to prosper needs to understand that obedience and sacrifice go hand in hand, like keys that open invisible doors. Have you ever stopped to think how many times you've missed out on something bigger simply because you were afraid to let go of something small? It's like trying to carry heavy stones while simultaneously wanting to run. The spiritual life works the same way. Only those who decide to let go of what's holding them back prosper. This is sacrifice. Sometimes it's giving up a habit that destroys your emotional health. Other times, it's cutting off relationships that distance you from your purpose. It might mean giving up an addiction, changing your mindset, or simply saying enough to a superficial life. Sacrifice hurts, but it's precisely this pain that shows you're leaving what's worthless behind. And when you combine this with obedience to what God speaks to your heart, the result is an unlocked life. Spiritual prosperity is the fruit of those who choose to obey, even when they don't understand everything, because trust is greater than doubt. And there's something powerful here. Obedience isn't just about following rules. It's about aligning your life with a higher purpose. It's about believing there's a better path than the one you've planned on your own. This obedience opens doors that human effort never could. When you take a step of faith, obeying, it's as if the universe conspires in your favor. What seemed impossible begins to fall into place because you're walking in the right direction. Spiritual prosperity isn't born from shortcuts. It's born from faithfulness. And the more you practice this, the more you realize that the sacrifice wasn't a loss but an exchange. You don't lose anything when you obey. You simply make room to receive something much greater than you had before. But thriving doesn't just mean achieving for yourself. Here's a point that revolutionizes the way many people view prosperity. It's not about hoarding, it's about overflowing. True prosperity always results in service to others. It makes no sense for someone to say they prosper spiritually if their life impacts no one but themselves. Spiritual prosperity is when your life becomes a channel. What reaches you doesn't stop with you. The peace you find is used to soothe others. The hope you carry is shared. The wisdom you acquire serves to guide someone who is still lost. It is in this cycle of giving and receiving that prosperity finds its purpose. And maybe this is the turning point you've been waiting for. Prosperity isn't what you gather, it's what you give away. It's living in a way that your life becomes the answer to others' questions. Think of someone you admire. It's not just for what they have, but for what they represent, for the impact they have on those around them. This is the difference between living an empty life or a life that makes sense. And here's the hard truth. Those who live only for themselves never find fulfillment, because the human heart only finds rest when it realizes there's a greater reason to be here. That reason is to serve, to be an instrument, to be part of something that transforms not only you but also the world around you. What you've just received here has already begun to change the way you view spiritual prosperity, opening up clarity on points that previously seemed confusing and showing you practical paths that can transform your life starting today. This revelation that touched you now can also reach many others who need to hear this very truth, and the way to multiply this is simple. Like this video and subscribe to the channel so you help this message reach even further. I want you to comment on the word destination, because that's what's being realigned in your life. Your destiny is being repositioned for something greater. Keep watching, because in the next video, you'll receive an even more powerful key, something that will take this knowledge to a deeper and more impactful level, and you won't want to miss this next revelation.